from all of Ireland's trusted car dealerships. That's why you'll find Lahart Skoda on Dundeel. Visit the Lahart Skoda showroom on Dundeel to find your 232 electric model. Dundeel Motors, for Ireland's largest range of electric cars from all of Ireland's trusted car dealerships. Visit dundeel.ie today.
Harvey Norman are your outdoor furniture specialists. This bank holiday weekend, get €300 in Harvey Norman gift cards when you spend over €1,500 on sofas, dining furniture and homewares. With 4-piece lounge sets like the Corfu, including sofa, 2 armchairs and coffee table for just $599. 6-piece lounge sets like the Palmer from just $799. And sun lounges from €99. Shop these outdoor furniture deals and so much more in store or online at Harvey Norman, your outdoor furniture specialists.
Go!
You ain't shit! I wish I was 50 years younger and I'd kick your ass.
Well, fans can be the harshest critics, you know.
And they often are.
A wife is often the harshest critic of her husband.
I thought I was invincible. That's what you're trained to believe as a sports person.
There was 4 million people in Ireland who knew much more about managing football teams than I did. When it comes to music, I can spoof with the best.
Your sporting career is the best time you'll have, and you know you have to hang on to it for as long as your life, because everything else is pretty crappy.
And this is not lies. Stephen Rochford has never spoken to Jim McGuigan in his life.
And this is Off the Ball Saturday on News Talk. John Duggan with you 3 to 5. This is the Saturday panel as we preview this weekend's Gaelic football action. Let's go through the fixtures first of all. Today we have the All-Ireland Senior Football Championship Round 2, Cork against Kerry, Porky Queeve at 3 o'clock. Kildare, Dublin, 5 o'clock, UPMC Nolan Park. Westmeath, Galway, 5 o'clock at Cusack Park in Mullingar. And Tyrone and Armagh at 7 o'clock at Healy Park in Omagh. And then in the Tailteann Cup Round 3, the match is underway now, Meath and down Tipperary in Waterford. And we also have Cavan, Offaly and Laois in London this afternoon. And then tomorrow we have in the Football Championship a Round 2, Mayo, Louth, Monaghan and Clare, Roscommon, Sligo and Donegal versus Derry. I am looking at the screen here and I see Ryan Moore in front past the winning post in the Epsom Derby. August Rodan has won it for Aidan O'Brien, a 9th win in the Epsom Derby, the 9-2 shot coming home strongly there to win the race for Ireland. So brilliant win in the Epsom Derby. Just had to interrupt there as we saw the closing stages. So well done Aidan O'Brien and Ryan Moore. A 9th win for Aidan in the Derby and brilliant to see it. Tomorrow in the Tailteann Cup we have Limerick, Wicklow, Longford, Carlow, Fermanagh, Antrim and Wexford against Leitrim. So join us to look ahead over the next hour all about Gaelic football. Dublin's former All-Ireland winner Ger Brennan of the St Vincent's Club, the All-Ireland Club winner with Ballinderry and ex-Derry forward Conleith Gilligan, and the former Galway captain and fullback Salt Hill Knocknacarra's Finian Hanley. Ger, Conleith and Finian, how is the form?
All good here, John. Thank you.
Not bad, John, in Dublin. Thank you. Lovely sunny day.
Same here, John. Yeah, all good in Galway. It's holiday fever down here in big time.
All the juries are in, the Galway, the Derry jury and the Dublin jury. We're all speaking to you over the next hour. Have you any questions, folks, to the panel or general comments, you can text us 53106 at the cost of 30 cents. We're always streaming the conversation as well now, so you can listen on News Talk and also watch us on the Off the Ball digital and social channels on YouTube, Facebook and on Twitter. Ger Brennan, are you enjoying it at the moment? Are you enjoying the football championship? Are you enjoying the style of play? Are you enjoying the format? How you feel about it all?
I'm probably starting to enjoy it a bit more now, John, because there's a bit more at stake as we move closer towards the business end of the championship. I found myself for the provincial stages tuned into a lot of the Ulster games because of the competitive nature of them. Much more entertaining in terms of how evenly matched a lot of the teams are. But the Leinster Championship, the Munster Championship, the Connacht one to a point, they've been damn squibs in a lot of ways, I would say. But I think most of us now are starting to enjoy this weekend's games, because after the results that we see today and tomorrow, we'll know the permutations of what they may be for the last round of the knockout of the All-Ireland's group stages.
And the style of play, is it floating your boat at the moment, or is it really too early again to see until we get the Jeopardy in?
It's the style of play is as it is, and it has gone quite basketball-esque in terms of up and down, conceding kickouts, dropping off, putting the press on behind the 65, or in a lot of cases the 45, and then trying to break at pace. It's just the way the game has kind of gone at the moment, John. It's not entertaining if you're used to watching Gaelic football over the last 20 years. Probably a lot of the younger lads in their teens and early 20s, they probably don't remember the way the game was a bit more competitive with longer balls being kicked in more regularly. But I know there's tweaks going to come up at some stage in the future to try to make it a bit more entertaining and have more entertaining games in terms of the styles of attack and whatnot. But look, it's okay. You just have to forget what we're used to seeing over the previous years and just embrace yourself to the tactical battles and the matchups that we see in the modern game.
Finian, are you enjoying it at the moment?
Yeah, I suppose similar to Ger, John, it's a funny one. You know, like some of the games are great. The Ulster final was great drama. You know, I like the penalties. A couple of things have been thrown in to, you know, make it that bit better. But it has been a bit, you know, hard to watch at times. You know, I won't lie. There's some games where you might consider heading in a half time because things don't open up. And I know Joe Brawley had an article there last week about the 10-minute ticket, but that's another story. But look, it is what it is. I think up to now you kind of know what you're getting in the provincials. That's another day's work. There was some good games. I was in Hyde Park for Galway Roscommon. It wasn't great, to be honest, as a spectacle. You know, job done after half time. Then it picked up a bit. But look, you'd think as normal it'll move up a gear coming into the latter stages. I think these games are kind of a little bit, you know, just get them out of the way and move into the quarterfinals as normal. But look, the game is a spectacle, needs a bit of work. It is very, very tactical, and as Ger says, it's basketball on a bigger pitch, maybe a little bit easier because you've got more space. So how to play the game going forward, I don't know. But look, there's games there that, you know, at least we have a level of teams playing on another level of teams with the Tailteann Cup and the All-Ireland Series. So you've got competitive games today, you've got competitive games tomorrow, which is what we've been crying out for, but there's probably another bit to go to get finished article.
Yeah, I think with all these things is there's always ways you can improve any sport, and I think one of the great things about the Football Championship this year, when we get to the quarterfinals, the preliminary games and the knockout, is that it is wide open. I don't think anybody in this country can predict the All-Ireland finalists at this stage, and if you're doing well, if you can. Conleith, how are you feeling about the state of the nation and the game at the moment yourself?
Yeah, I think to touch on Finian's point, Joe Brawley was correct in that the game's open up in the last 10 minutes. But what you have to do in the first 15 minutes is paying rent. That allows you to live there in the last 10, because you have to retain your kick-outs. You can't be giving away the ball cheap, because teams and players are so good now, they can punish you from any angle. If you drop off men, the goalkeeper will come up and kick a point from 40 metres. It's just the evolution of the game, and I think it will improve. It's still early days with this group stage to see how it goes, but I definitely think there's green shoots. And as far as everybody was trying to predict who would be dropping out, but Westmeath and Sligo and Roscommon have showed that they're all going to be very competitive in this, and there's probably a few more twists and turns on it.
Yeah, I think it was Peter Fitzpatrick was reading one of the papers this week, and I can't remember which one, so apologise to the paper, that like, this is amazing for Louth. Louth have never had this. They've never had, like, they're playing Cork, they're playing Kerry, you know, they're playing Mayo. They never had this opportunity, and they can only get better in this format. It's almost like a bit of a Division 1 campaign for them. Just in terms of, was anything you'd like to see change, Conleith, in terms of the way the game is administered, in terms of maybe kickouts having to go beyond a 45 or a shot clock or anything like that, or any kind of rules around the goalkeeper, or would you like to see the rules the way they are exactly at the moment, Conleith?
Yeah, look, I like the evolution of the goalkeeper. I think that the fact that they just stood in between two posts and hope that nobody gets shot, I think that's over. Goalkeepers have evolved, players have got better. They're now looking at Ethan Rafferty and players like that are established outfield footballers now, adding a bit of value somewhere else. I think it's got road to travel, so I don't necessarily want to take players away out of the game, but I think all the rules they're looking at tinkering, all it does is kick the can further down the road. So if the kick out has to go outside the 45, you're now going to have 28 people between two 45s. So I don't see where it benefits. You know, no back pass. You know, yeah, you could have things like in the Kilmacud Sevens where you go over the halfway line, you can't go back there. You could have all those things, but the problem with rule changing is, does it transfer into the club game? And that's the bigger picture, because I know we're talking about county football and elite level and maybe the more elite level referees, but any rule has to be able to filter down into the club scene, and that referees are fit to interpret it correctly. And I think that's where the trouble sits. In the freshers competitions now, and Gerald have more experience of this, they'll trail these things, but I just get a sense that I don't see any of them being any better than we have already.
So Augusta Rodin won the Derby. Sorry to interrupt there, Conleith, 9-2. King of Steel was second, 66-1, and that horse trained by John Murphy in Cork, White Birch, third at 12-1 in the Epsom Derby, but a 9th win in the race for Aidan O'Brien. Well done to him. Ger, would you like to see any changes in terms of rules, in terms of the way the game is played at the moment?
Well, the ones that are going to trial now for the fixture football and hurling Division 1 competitions, I fully agree with Conleith. I just don't see any benefit in those competitions, in those suggested rule changes. So, for example, the kick out, you has to go beyond the 45 in order to touch it if you're on the receiving team. But also, college football, funny enough, for those of us who've been at it, there could be 5 or 6 games a season, John, where the ball won't even get over the 45-metre line because of the conditions, and the ball is being kicked up and the wind blows it back and everything else. So I don't know what's going to happen there. I think Conleith's point on rule changes that can be filtered down to the club game is hugely important. A huge frustration that a lot of Division 1 managers in clubs and obviously inter-county would have is inconsistencies in how referees, despite their best efforts, are trying to implement the rules as they are. So how can you make it a bit more black and white for referees? I think the shot clock one won't work because that'll just advantage the defensive team. They'll just retreat. I think trying to keep, you have to keep 4 players in the opposition 65. That means it'll create a bit more space. It'll be somewhat easier to police. I think that's something that you could look at. So, which will give the attacking team more opportunities up front. So you would therefore have 8 players in the opposition 65, 4 defenders and 4 forwards, and those numbers can rotate, so to speak, whoever wants to join the attack. But then you need to introduce, at certainly at the county level, an additional referee probably to be able to police that, because the guys have enough on their plate at the moment.
Finian, anything you'd like to touch upon in terms of the way the game is played, or any kind of changes you'd like to see?
There's a couple of things, John, I suppose, that the lads touched on as well. Like, you can look at the opposition mark. Is that working? Is it used for what it was supposed to be used for? I think what we're trying to do is get the bomber listing in the square, catching balls, not a little chip from, tennis chip over the 45 line, and then it's a mark. So they could look at that. I'd go a bit, another way. The rules, changing the rules, as Conleith said, isn't going to be easy. It's not going to happen overnight, because you have a lot of people at the table here that are trying to get, we're trying to keep the history of the game. We're trying not to change it because people, want to change or whatever it is. But I think if you look at a couple of things, right? So you've got free kicks, for instance. Goalkeepers now are taking free kicks and they're scoring them after, Stephen Gluckston in 2011. I was at a game last year. Cornerback got the ball, free out, had the ball in his hand for about 15 seconds. The crowd starts roaring at him and throw in. Right, ref goes in saying taking too long, throwing. Second half of that game, point up, call up the goalie. I'd say it took 2 minutes for the goalie to get up, put the ball down, and kick the ball over the bar. So there's inconsistencies in that in itself that need to be kind of shifted, because goalies coming up taking the frees, it's great, but Maurice Fitzgerald, Michael Meehan, Maurice Sheridan, a couple of lads I played with, and the lads that the lads played with as well. Surely to God we can get our forwards, our top forwards, back taking these frees. I'm not talking about the halfway line frees. I'm talking about, there's goalies taking frees now from inside the 45 and stuff. So I know it's an art and all that, but like, you would love our top forwards putting the ball down, striking the ball over the bar a bit quicker. And if that's the case, I think referees can speed that up, and that might happen again. Second thing is this, there's still a bit of cynicism with regards to the black card. Go off for 10 minutes, manager, physio gets on, head injury, 4 of those minutes are gone. We need to tighten up all that stuff and cut out all that nonsense, because it's slowing the game down and it's adding to the whole drag of it. Because if you get 3 or 4 minute head injury or a goalie coming up to take a free, it's adding to it. So let's cut these things first and then go after the rules then. And I just think 1 or 2 tweaks in that regard before we look at keeping 3 up, no back pass, shot clock and all that sort of stuff, because they're monumental changes that are going to get a lot of force against.
Okay, Tailteann Cup at the moment. Go on.
And just on that, and it's why we want to change the rules, not so much change them for change's sake, but what is it that we want? Do we want more contests? Do we want more individual battles? And if you want, is it to make games more attractive? Some things like the player that gets fouled has to hit his own free. Suddenly that changed the dynamic of Dean Rock scoring anywhere inside the 45, because if it's a wing half back or now more so a corner back, he's maybe not as adept at hitting that free, so he'll just hit it quick and move the game on. So there is very simple things you can do, but the question has to be, why are we changing the rule and what is it we want out of the rule change?
Yeah, you want a more attractive game. I think that's maybe if you feel it, if it's not attractive enough. Meath 1-3 down 5 points at Parnell Park. Tipperary 9 points. Waterford 1-4 at Porky Queeve at the moment, but might not be enough for either of those teams, with the third place team, the weakest of them, falling out. But Meath and Dan already through. But amazing, 1991 they're in the All-Ireland final. They're now in the Tailteann Cup. Conleith, who've been the players that have excited you so far? Who've been your players of the championship so far? Who do you think is going to make an impact in the next couple of months? Obviously, we know David Clifford is one of them, but maybe some of the other players like Shane McGuigan has made a real impact. Who's really kind of caught your eye so far?
Yeah, look, and anything that's went before has been window dressing. It's really now that you're going to see the real top end players, and in Shane McGuigan, on form, you probably have the most informed player in the country. Like I was at Armagh last week and Westmeath,
but I mean,
and I thought John Heslin,
the other reality is,
I thought John Heslin was magic, and I thought Loughlin as well was top drawer. So I think there's loads of players that have come to the fore, but even within that, if you look at what Monaghan done to be doing what they're doing without, the likes of Conor McManus, I think there's loads of players come to the fore, but it's really now that you will see that. But in Shane McGuigan, you have probably the most informed player in the country at the moment.
Ger, who's the player that's caught your eye so far? Ger, can you hear us there?
Oh, sorry, John. Yeah. Sorry, John. Yeah, in a game where we see mass defences being to the fore, I think you have to look at sharpshooters and forwards. And you mentioned Shane McGuigan. So in 4 championship games so far, he's hit 230. So he's contributed 9 points a game, which is huge. Brian O'Donoghue of Mayo, they've only had 2 games so far, but I think he's on 7 points. And both players for me are superb. Target men, they're tracking back, they're breaking up opposition attacks, but at the same time they're putting their foot forward, they're kicking their frees, they're leaders on the pitch, and I think both guys have really stood up so far. Brendan Rodgers also has been quite impressive for me. He was held a bit last week now against Monaghan, but over the couple of games we've seen there, I think Brendan Rodgers has been very effective for Derry, and he's what's good about a lot of their attacks from the middle of the pitch, breaking the line, taking his man on, creating an overlap, and those 3 lads have stood out for me so far.
Finian, who stood out for you?
Yeah, I suppose from our own side of the country, James Carr for Mayo, Aidan O'Shea, they seem to be they seem to have clicked. Mayo's top unit seem to be going on what they did in Kerry. John Maher, midfield, newbie from my own club in Salthill, flying it has put in some massive shifts as well. But look, the lads have mentioned the Derry guys, particularly Shane McGuigan. He's doing it all at the minute, really, isn't he? And he's kind of, he's setting the tone outside of Clifford now. That is because Clifford is on another level. But again, we're into the business end of things now, and the cream will rise to the top. But so far for these guys, they're finding their way in the championship, and I think it's a big year for Shane McGuigan. He probably didn't finish the way he wanted last year, and he's gone in to get personal accolades and obviously team accolades as well.
Conor Flynn on YouTube. Finian Hanley, best to ask you this: are Galway favourites for the All Ireland right now?
Oh God, Jesus, John. I don't think so. I think. Look, we spoke about it earlier. There's things going on in various games at the minute. It's very tight. If you look at all the top 8 teams, it's like how soccer became, in the 2000s, where you've got, a staunch defence. You've got 3 attackers up front. Like you've got Ryan O'Donoghue, Aidan O'Shea, James Carr. You've got Shane Walsh, Damien Homer, Rob Finnerty. The Dublin lads. You've got a top 3, and then you've got everyone is chiselled to defend in a counter-attacking system, and it's on the day who gets as Conleith says, the 60 minutes right of controlling the game and has the 3 key forwards up front to do the damage. Have Galway got a chance? Absolutely. We've grown the panel big time. But I think Conor Flynn, if I'm right, is a Mayo man, and he's playing games there. But I think Mayo are still favourites for the All Ireland.
Maybe not the only Conor Flynn.
From a Galway perspective, for me, the one player that has really changed the look of their team as well as Maher has been Peter Cook coming back. obviously what he done for Michael last year, I thought he was excellent, and he can attack, he can defend, he's got pace. If you want to play three across the middle, he can take out one of the big players. I just think he's the one player that if Galway could have launched off the back last year, they could have been All-Ireland champions.
Yeah, and Jared, they've only conceded an average of 12 points this season, Galway, so far. So they have Cian O'Neill's work obviously in the background, but also the swagger and the confidence of Pork Joyce.
Sorry, John, that was me, is it?
Yeah, Jerry, yeah.
Yeah, I think Galway are the front runners so far. I think they've been really impressive, quite consistent. I know against Tyrone last week, Tyrone were under pressure with the man put off early, but I was hugely impressed by how Galway played against Roscommon in the semi-final of the Conleith Championship. Although they only won maybe 4 or 5 on the scoreboard, I think they kind of really dominated that game, and certainly in the second half, and they showed what they're about. But I think if Galway end up facing a Kerry in an All-Ireland final, I think they'll have enough experience and learnings to be able to get over the line. If they're faced against Dublin or someone who they're less familiar with in championship terms more recently, I think they may doubt themselves potentially, but I think Galway will be front runners. And then you look at Mayo, did really well in the National League, had to play the following week. I think Galway went off overseas for that week after the league final. Roscommon performed really well in that first round of the Conleith Championship, but then I think it was 5 or 6 weeks till Mayo's first outing against Kerry, and to go down and win and beat a Kerry team the way they did, they were quite comfortable, I think, overall in that match. They take huge confidence from it, so the challenge for them now will be trying to kind of back it up and get those consistent performances under their belts and put them in good stead for the knockout stage of the championship. So Galway won for me, John, with Mayo in second.
It's very like
one thing we have, John. Sorry, is if you look at the league, I think Galway were the 25th. We were very low on the scoring charts. Anyhow, we were down around in the country now, which kind of proves where we're at. We've embraced defensive style of football, extreme counter-attacking. We've no issues with putting 14 men behind the ball at times or whatever it is. So we haven't overly scored, but we do have the forwards that if we do click on a day that we can do damage over here. But I think it's very premature. I think, look, there's 7 or 8 teams that can have a say here if they get a run. It was very close between Armagh and Galway last year. Dublin and Kerry are still traditionally the ones who can come to the fore in the semi-finals,
Okay, got to take a break. Finian Hanley, Ger Brennan and Conleith Gilligan. We're going to get into the games more in detail after the break that are going on this weekend. Bohemians 0, Shamrock Rovers 0 in the Women's Premier Division at half-time, Deadman Park. And we have Tailteann Cup action. We will keep you in touch with the Lorry Markup final. Monaghan 1-12, Lancashire 2-8 at Croke Park. That's the latest as well. And Tom McKibben in the golf is going great guns this week in the European Open in Hamburg. And he's only 1 shot off the lead, 5 under par, 1 shot behind David Law on day 3, moving day. But the big news, I suppose, in the last hour, Aidan O'Brien's won the Derby for the 9th time at Epsom with Auguste Rodin, ridden by Ryan Moore, the 9-2 shot. We're back after the break with Gaelic football, Ger Brennan, Conleith Gilligan and Finian Hanley.
On radio, on the News Talk app, powered by Go Loud and smart speaker. Play News Talk.
News Talk. Conversation that counts.
Make it a summer to really remember with Go Breaks. From family getaways to romantic hideaways, discover our best hotel deals now at gobreaks.ie.
Go Breaks.
We spend much of our lives waiting. Waiting for someone to talk to.
Thank you for holding.
Waiting in line.
Next.
And waiting for the sun to shine. But if you're holding on for the right EV, your wait is over. Because the Kia EV6 is now waiting for you at your local Kia dealer. A triumph of design, space and range. The award-winning EV6 is the car that changes everything. So what are you waiting for? Visit kia.com to book your test drive.
Kia. Movement that inspires.
Discover the Samsung laundry range at Power City. With Samsung's SpaceMax technology, big loads are no biggie. To learn more about the extra large capacity A-rated Samsung washing machines, go online to powercity.ie.
It's big, it's got everything, and it's open now for
Forget the drama. Relax at one of our award-winning plazas. You can make the perfect pit stop at the N17 Plaza, Kinnegan Plaza, the Portlaoise Plaza, the Barack Obama Plaza, Tipperary Town Plaza, the N20 Mallow Plaza, and the Galway Plaza. With Supermax, Papa John's, Super Subs, Bewley's Barista and Spar, there's something for everyone at the Plaza. An ideal stop on your journey.
Super Value makes saving money as easy as 1, 2, 3. 1. We match Aldi on the products you love. 2. Great special offers like Super Value Fresh Irish Tomahawk and Ribeye Steak save 33%. Heineken 12-pack bottles only €15. And 3. Money off vouchers every week on the app. So follow the 1, 2, 3 and save money at Super Value. Enjoy alcohol responsibly.
Love a space to call your own. Live in the better built surroundings of a Glenveigh home.
Love having a sense of place. Live for shaping it from the get-go.
Love green spaces and the joy of outdoors. Live where lower environmental impact is a way of life.
In a home built more sustainably for comfort, quality, and for people putting down roots just like you.
Love where you live. Community inspired and shaped by you and Glenveigh.
Home of the new.
Calling all out-of-contract Virgin Media customers. Switch to Air Broadband this summer and save up to €420. Experience amazing 500 meg speeds for just €34.99 a month. Sign up today and get €50 off your bill. For more, call 1-800-500-300, go in store or visit air.ie. Air, Ireland's #1 broadband provider. Subject to availability, 12-month contract. Ireland's #1 broadband provider based on Comreg market share. For full T's and C's, see air.ie/save.
Follow at Newstalk FM on Instagram for the latest videos from our presenters, reporters and team behind the scenes. Newstalk. Conversation that counts. On 106 to 108 FM, on the Newstalk app, powered by Go Loud and Smart Speaker. This is Newstalk.
It's 2 o'clock. Good afternoon, I'm Ellen Butler. Taoiseach Sir Micheál Martin has expressed his deepest sympathy to the people of India after yesterday's devastating rail crash. At least 280 people have been killed and 900 injured in the collision around 130 miles southwest of Kolkata. The Department of Foreign Affairs says as yet there is no indication that any Irish citizen has been affected. Naveen Patnaik, the Chief Minister of Odisha, where it happened, says rescue teams are trying to find passengers trapped in the wreckage.
I'm deeply distressed by this extremely tragic train accident. I have to thank the local people.
Here at home, Gardaí are appealing for witnesses to a fatal crash in Offaly. A man in his 30s died when the car he was driving crashed into a wall near Tullamore Golf Club at about 5:10 this morning. A technical examination of the scene is currently taking place, with the road expected to remain closed for a number of hours. Gardaí are also examining claims that South Dublin residents demanded to be paid €225,000 each to not object to a local housing development. The neighbours wrote a letter to the developer outlining their requests but were refused, according to the Irish Independent. The developer instead referred the incident to the Garda Fraud Squad. Fionn Sheehan, Ireland editor with the Irish Independent, says the residents live in quite an affluent part of Dublin.
These are people in very reputable positions. We've got a senior executive in a very prestigious firm, director of an international company, member of a state board even. And the area they live in, €1 million houses are very common.
Police have made at least 19 arrests at this afternoon's Epsom Derby, one of the UK's top horse races. Animal rights activists had threatened to disrupt the festival, even though it is illegal to get onto the track. Orla Coughlin speaks for the group Animal Rising. She believes they have public opinion on their side.
I absolutely don't doubt that the owners and the jockeys love their horses. I'm not questioning that at all. But I think that our actions are really not in line with our values. And we know that the British public are on our side. I think that we are taking action and representing a really big group of people here.
And finally, for now, the average stag and hen do costs €900 per person. New research by Aviva in the UK has found if they decide to head abroad, the costs rise to almost €1,400. When broken down by gender, men spend over €1,000 while women cough up over €750. And that's your news at 2:02.
Newstalk weather.
Thanks to Ryanair. Can Rory win the British Open? Support him live in July with Ryanair's daily flights to Liverpool.
Widespread sunshine again today with the odd bit of cloud in places. Top temperatures of 19 to 24 degrees. And now you're up to date on News Talk.
The Saturday panel on Off the Ball.
And you're welcome back to Off the Ball Saturday here on News Talk. John Duggan with you through to 5. Just before we go back to the Gaelic football conversation, I want to give you the lineups for the FA Cup final between Manchester City and United. So City, Ortega in goal, Walker, Stones, Diaz and Akanji, Rodri, De Bruyne, Gundogan, Bernardo Silva, Jack Grealish and Erling Haaland. And for Manchester United, we have De Gea in goal and a back four of Wan-Bissaka, Lindelof, Rafael Varane and Luke Shaw. Then we have in the middle we have Casemiro, Fred and Christian Eriksen, and in the forward positions Bruno Fernandes, and we also have Jadon Sancho and then Marcus Rashford leading the line. So that's the FA Cup final. Kicks off at 3 o'clock. Mark Lawrenson will be on hand with Graham Gartland to go through the whole of the game and obviously discuss everything else on Football Saturday. But Stefan Ortega, Pep Guardiola, loyal to him, and he starts in goal. In terms of what's going on elsewhere in sport, we know that the Tailteann Cup is on this afternoon. Meath won 4 down 7 points at Parnell Park, and Tipperary 10 points. Waterford won 4 in the Laurie Mar Cup final. It's Monaghan 1-12, Lancashire 2-8. But right now we're speaking about Gaelic football, part 2 of the Saturday panel, previewing the action this weekend with Dublin's former All-Ireland winner Ger Brennan of the St Vincent's Club, the All-Ireland Club winner with Ballinderry and the ex-Derry forward Conleith Gilligan, and the former Galway captain and fullback Salthill Knocknacarra's Finian Hanley. Ger Brennan, Dublin, why the inconsistency? So a Laois win of 27 points, a defeat of Louth by 21, but only a 2-point victory over Kildare and a draw versus Roscommon. Why the fluctuation?
That's a great question, John. And yeah, talking to a few buddies from Dublin and some of the lads I played with, you know, the era of Dublin's dominance is obviously finished the last couple of seasons, so there is a bit of a downward spiral. Now, if you look at the team that's named to start today, certainly the top 6 midfielder and 2 or 3 of the back line, along with Stephen Cluxon, they've won 4, 5, 6, 7 All-Ireland. So it's a very experienced squad that they have there. I don't know whether fatigue has set in, the bit of hunger. They just seem to be kind of quite fragmented in their play. When we seen them against Laois, I know everybody would have expected them to win comfortably, but I thought how we attacked them was refreshing to see, and that's what we would have associated with the Dublin team over the last 7 or 8 years. Again, not so good against Kildare. Kildare were a better opposition than Laois, but at the same time we kind of sat back and allowed Kildare to get time on the ball and to pass the thing around. And I'm going to jump past the Louth game and look at the Roscommon match. I think Dublin played quite similarly against Roscommon in the way that we did against Kildare, and you just allowed the opposition to get a lot of touches on the ball, pass the thing around, become comfortable, get yourself into the game, as opposed to stepping up, asking questions of them and try to force turnovers higher up the pitch. So it was a low risk, low energy style of football. Was it strategic? Obviously it looks that way. When you look at who Dublin have played so far this year, John, in the championship, Roscommon was the first Division 1 league team that they actually played, and they drew with them. So the quality of player that Roscommon have and the level of competition that they were exposed to in the National League was far greater than what Dublin would have experienced. So I'm hoping that the Roscommon game will bring us on. I'm hoping that the bit of fire in the belly going down to Nolan Park against the Kildare team, where Glenn Ryan had his few comments after the match, which is adds to the conversation and the bit of crack. And no doubt, I'm not down there today, but I'd love to be in one of the pubs in Kilkenny City with a few Kildare and Dublin supporters knocking a bit of crack out of it before the match. But so it does make for an interesting game. I would be worried going into this match. It doesn't look like we have the legs at the moment and the energy levels there. Cormac Costello was our best player really last week up front. Kieran Kilkenny obviously came off with a bit of a shoulder injury. He is named down to start. Kieran's a tough cookie. If he's 80%, he'll want to play. So I hope he does start, because he's a big part of our forward play. So John, to answer your question, I'm unsure, but that's some of the thoughts going through my head at the moment as to where we're at and where we're at. the other thing people have been talking about are Dublin training hard during the group stage of the All-Ireland series. They can't be, because myself, Finian and Conleith were playing their 30, starting off our senior county careers. You know, there could have been 3 or 4 or 5 weeks between provincial matches, and more common in Connacht and Leinster and Ulster because of the number of teams. But I used to dread the training block between provincial championship matches, because you get the crap run out of you for 3 or 4 weeks. But once you got to the All-Ireland series, there's only so much you can do, because you get to a point of diminishing returns, and then it's about keeping guys fresh. And how we trained in the latter years of my career under Jim Gavin, if we had a train like that in the earlier years, I might have got a couple of years out of myself, no more than the 2 boys. But that's the way sports science has gone. So it's about getting to a consistent level of fitness, and you just taper and peak at key times. So I don't think they're being overtrained at the moment. I just think we're playing poorly.
Conleith, you're doing the game for GAA Go. Did you give Kildare a squeak at Nolan Park?
Well, look, as you touched on, it's now out of Croke Park. Kildare have got their wish, but I just don't see where they can do it. From the last day that they played Dublin, Hurd's come back, Scully's come back, Costello's come back. So I think from that perspective, Dublin are in a much better position. It's a must-win game, and I think this could be a very difficult afternoon for Kildare. I'm totally opposite. If Dublin have anything in them and have All-Ireland credentials, they win this game, and they win it by some distance for me today. I just think this is the game they have to deliver, because any mistakes today, they could end up qualifying third, and the chances of playing that extra game and win the All-Ireland, I think it's very difficult for them. But I think they'll win, and win with a fair bit to spare. But all the questions will be on Kildare.
Yeah, we got James Donoghue down at Porky Queeve for Cork and Kerry, so we'll be speaking to him before 3 as well. Conleith, Tyrone and Armagh. It just seems there's something not right with Tyrone. I mean, since the All-Ireland they won, they've lost 4 out of 5 championship games. Players have left the panel. They look good against Monaghan for the first half, and then it kind of tapered off. Obviously, they had Frank Byrne sent off in Galway, but they really need a performance. They need to show something, because they haven't since they won the All-Ireland.
They haven't, and look, I suppose they have showed every year after they won the All-Ireland, they've been unable to back it up again, and that's something I know works the group. But I think what they do have now is they have a continuity of team. The problem they have is that they're 10 and they're 12, whether it be Frank Burns, whether it be Kieran McGeary, Michael O'Neill. They've had different players coming in and out, and that's the one line that they've struggled with. And today, Niall Snudden's got back into the team, and he hasn't played very much football all year. So they have to deliver against an Armagh team who underperformed against Westmeath. I think this could be a cracker, but the problem with Tyrone is that the players that are leaving the panel aren't starters. You know, and obviously this week, Padraig McNulty left the Tyrone panel as well, and while he was just coming back from injury, it just means it leaves it very, very difficult to train, because your AVB games become less competitive. And at the minute, what Tyrone have on the bench, really with Cathal McShane injured, is Rory Canavan and McGuigan and players that have been untried at senior level, even though they're All-Ireland under-20 winners, so they're serious quality. But I think for me, Tyrone are going to have to show something, and it would be the likes of a Rory Canavan that I would love to see starting, just to see what they have in reserve.
Finian, what about Armagh? Like, the Galway game last year was opposed to the template for what they can do going forward. Maybe they should have finished Derry off in the Ulster final, but they didn't. They may be a bit lucky last week, but they do. They could smell blood in the water here against Tyrone, and this could be really kickstart Armagh's summer.
Yeah, 100%. I think Armagh are, they're so good and they're so bad at the same time. They won't forgive you for saying that, but they're just, they can, like last year against Galway in the quarter-final, they were bet out the gate, and then somehow, we malfunctioned at the back, a couple of mistakes, got back into it, and they hang on, because when Armagh aren't going well and they're 3 points down or 4 points down, they'll lock one in, not like other teams, and Andrew Mernon is there, a big tall guy, can get a hand on it. They'll try something, and I'm sure they're, Kieran Donoghue and the lads are doing all these things in training. So look, they're exciting to watch, no doubt about it. I do think after the Galway game last year, they did sit down over the winter and say, right, we're going to have to batten down the hatches of time. I think the league showed that, where they went really, really defensive away from what they had done last year. They were exhilarating last year to watch. You'd watch them all day. They were the Man City of GAA, but now they're trying to get the balance. They're trying to keep the score down, not hemorrhage like they did, and still pose that threat with the long kick, the Rian O'Neill, and the likes of Soupy Campbell and these guys coming off the bench as well. So they're kind of like, they haven't clicked fully yet, but I do think they're a threat to anyone. And on their day, given the setup they have and the way they can play, they can trouble anyone if they get it right, and they have that bit between their teeth. That game up there should be an absolute cracker today. A derby, massive history, massive tradition. So, Tyrone weren't overly impressive, even with the man down. When they had 15 men, they weren't overly impressive. They do have killer forwards, but I think Armagh could take Tyrone today. I just think they'll pose a threat with a long ball, and they've probably learned how to get 12 men inside their own half and use them better than they had been.
Is there a good vibe about today's game against Westmeath, Finian? It seems like Galway, of all teams, they won the league. They won Connacht. Sorry, they didn't win the league. They lost to Mayo, but they got to the final. Is there any worry about Westmeath? There obviously won't be complacency, but there's a real chance now for Galway to top the group, get into the quarter final, and give themselves a bit of a breather.
Yeah, John. To be honest, to date we haven't set the world alight, but I think we're in a place where we haven't been in a long time of professionalism, getting the job done. Whether there's 40 men on the pitch, whether there's 30 men on the pitch, Galway weren't brilliant the last day. There was no long. Shane wasn't running the pitch and Damien wasn't pulling them out of the sky. The sexy stuff hasn't been overly there this year yet. There's been lads chipping in, Matty Tierney and guys like that have been. Peter Cook has stepped up, as Conleith said, but what we have at the minute is professionalism. We know what we're getting when we go out every day. We're getting compact defence, strict counter attacking, and a very, very well coached team, which is great. It's not always super exciting. We had loads of years of super exciting Galway football that didn't work. So they're super professional. I think they'll go to Westmeath today. Like a lot of games, it might be 5-all, 6-all at half time. I think that's kind of, you can really put money on half time scores now. It's pretty predictable. But I think we'll grind it out. We'll use the 40-50 minutes to grind it out and pull away for the last 10 or 15 minutes with the calibre of player that we have in Shane. Rob Finnerty's back in today. Ian Burke is back in, and I just think that once it opens up in that third, fourth quarter, we'll pull away. And no disrespect to Westmeath, they're going well. Had a great performance against Armagh, but I just think that where Galway are at the minute and the professionalism is, there's no emotion attached to the game for Galway. No matter who they're playing, they're just going to get the job done.
Ger Brennan, would you, if you were a Kerry fan, be a bit worried about the Mayo game, or is it just one of these rhythms of what is now an elongated season? Is there anything there that's fundamentally worrying for Kerry from the Mayo defeat?
I think I would make similar comparisons to Dublin and Kerry, John. Dublin's first decent challenge in the championship was against the Roscommon Division 1 team, and then Kerry's first decent challenge was against the Division 1 team against Mayo. The last day they had 2 facile victories in the Munster Championship over, I think it was a tip the first day out, and obviously Clare in the final. And it was 4 or 5 weeks from the Munster final to between the Munster final and the semi-final, so there's only so much exposure to high intensity that you can get in those A-B games. So you do need to go and play real top opposition to see where you're at. So I think Kerry will have learned an awful lot about themselves the last day v Mayo, but also from a conditioning point of view, from a decision making under pressure point of view, all those all those facets of a high quality team, high quality individuals, they'll all have been stepped up a couple of level of degrees now, and I would feel for Cork. I think they could give Cork a right hiding down in Páirc Uí Chaoimh today.
53106, we were talking about the rules of the game and anything to do to make football more attractive. Pat Embray says one rule change would transform Gaelic football. A player receives a hand pass, must kick the ball. Too many players today can't kick with any skill or accuracy. Another one of our commenters on YouTube was in touch as well, Peter, who says, I think a lot of the proposed rule changes, every rule that's been suggested could easily be negated by inter-county managers. They won't make football more attractive. Changing football to a 13-a-side game makes a lot more space for attacking, and it actually benefits many rural clubs in not having to field as many players. Conleith, Gilligan, why now? Why would it be different for this year with Mayo? They play Louth tomorrow in Castlebar. Why would it be different this year for Kevin McStay and the Mayo football to end this hoodoo?
Yeah, look, that's the question. Why would it be different? And Mayo are the one county, I suppose, that a lot of us would be sort of egging on to win one. But until they do, there's still the doubts about it. And they're still the one team who seem to be able to get it wrong at the very worst times. But I think there is something different under Kevin McStay. I think the way he is with the media, how open he is with his players, what he's been able to do with Aidan O'Shea and make him feel comfortable. But for me, the thing is, like, Aidan O'Shea has already tried this full forward thing and it hasn't worked great at the very top end. It works well in Connacht, maybe in a quarter final, a semi-final, but the final it's always fallen flat because of expectation on him. And Aidan O'Shea seems to be playing with a freedom that the management seem to be giving him. So I think it's a wee bit different in as far as this year, their impact of the bench. You know, both them and Galway, like, they have scored 19 points between league and championship from their sub-bench. Galway or something similar. And if you look at Tyrone as a comparison, Tyrone have only scored 6 points off the bench. So I think that's the difference. They're picking teams, horses for courses, leaving players out and getting real impact. And that's, I think, where they're a wee bit different and they're not overly reliant on the same players.
Yeah, Galway Mayo All-Ireland final, I think, would break the country in a way, wouldn't it? Will it definitely break demand for tickets. Monaghan and Clare as well tomorrow. Ger Brennan, Vinnie Corey seems to be learning quickly on the job, beaten by Derry and Ulster, but drew with them last time, and he was able to leave Conor McManus out.
And I've seen a lot of Monaghan this year. Just again, as I said at the outset, the Ulster games are far more competitive, but just the way my own schedule has gone during the National League, I've been able to see them quite a bit, and he has learned. He has gone with guys with legs, and the two boys have touched on it. You know, you just want to be in the mix coming into the home stretch, the last 10 minutes, and then you can introduce your more skilled, slightly older individuals. Possibly, I think Monaghan, they could have introduced McManus a bit earlier. They possibly left it a bit too late. There's a couple of key moments in that last 10 minutes where you had younger guys in possession who had worked really hard. Probably Ryan O'Toole, with Ryan's in UCD, so he's probably jumping out in my memory. But if Conor McManus had been in that position, it could have been 2 or 3 points. But a couple of the Monaghan lads had kind of fatigued. But it was a huge effort from Monaghan. They definitely have learned quite a bit, and that'll give them great confidence going into the game over the weekend. Yeah, they've been very impressive.
Will they be Clare, Ger?
They will be Clare. Yeah, I think Clare mentally, I think destroyed any internal hope they had of success this year in how they froze like deer in the headlights against Kerry in the Munster final. I think that will have damaged their psyche, and I can't see them recovering from that. I think they're going to struggle in the last couple of games.
It feels to me, Finian Hanley, that Roscommon are one of the counties that are maxing what they have at the moment. They drew with the Dubs, they perform well in the league, they beat Mayo and Connacht. It seems that they've got a good coaching set up there. Finian, you might be muted there.
Sorry, John. Yeah, no, absolutely. I think, look, Roscommon always, as the old cliche goes, there's always footballers in Roscommon, unbelievable footballers. And what Kieran Murtaugh's at the minute is footballer of the year stuff. Possibly, I know it's early doors, but you see these things of who the footballer of the year elects in June, July, or August. But he's playing absolutely unbelievable. And I think when everyone's talking about the 6-minute possession hold, kind of shows where the level of coaching that Davy Burke has gone into with Roscommon. Mark McHugh is there as well, so look, he's been involved in All-Ireland winning setups and this counter-attacking game that's, you know, everyone's at and who does it the best now. So Roscommon have the footballers, Kieran Murtaugh. They've now an element off the bench of Conor Cox, who was a superstar a couple of years ago, coming off, able to kick scores when it opens up. So look, Connacht's in a good place with those three teams really, really at the top of their game. Can Roscommon beat Mayo? Why not? You know what I mean? They can put men behind the ball. They can counter-attack at pace. They've got pace all over the park, and they've got super experience in Daly, you know, and the Smiths, these lads have been around the block. They've all Connacht medals. They've been to Croke Park. They've played in big games. So there's a lovely mix, and there's the likes of Ben O'Carroll up front, and they're in a really good place. And they're when Roscommon are confident, you can kind of see it and you can hear it as well, you know. So they're in a good place. Are they contenders when it comes to the crunch? I think what they will be this year is they will be competitive at the very, very latter stages. I think they'll be there. Whether they get out of the group or not, they will have got out. They'll have lost out by a hair's breadth. They're not far away because of the players they have and the coaching system. And I just think they've improved so much. And obviously Connacht football is in a really, really good place at the minute with those three teams really at the top of their game.
Yeah, with Roscommon, I think they're the kind of team that might take a scalp. Whether they win the All-Ireland, I don't know, but they definitely could take a scalp. It's a funny one, Conleith, Gilligan. Like Donegal looked an absolute disaster earlier this year. Paddy Clark left. They were relegated. They lost to Dan and Ulster. But one victory might just give them a bit of a spur for the game against Derry tomorrow. Not that you'd want to hear that yourself. Yeah, look, it absolutely have. And there's no question Derry's high of winning the Ulster Championship in the most difficult of weeks, losing the manager. For the players, they were flat, as was expected. Like Armagh were flat, you know, emotionally. It took a lot out of the players, the penalties, back to back. It hasn't been done in Derry that often, and I think from that perspective, Derry were caught a wee bit flat. And is it just the one game, or is it something more significant? Because obviously Kieran Meena has stepped up, and when you change a dynamic and a coaching setup, the coach becomes a manager, and everything changes, and it's just a wee bit different. So I'm really looking forward to see how Derry react to that. Going to Ballybuffet has never been easy for Derry at any stage, but it's not the fortress it was. And I think with the players that Donegal are missing, I still think that Derry will beat them, but I think it could be a more uncomfortable afternoon. You know, had Patrick McBurdy been fit, you know, had O'Donnell been back, players like that, they would have a better chance. But when Oisín Gallen is a serious talent if they can keep him fit. You know, Kieran Thompson knows every inch of Ballybuffet, so the big shooters, and that gives them a chance. But I just think Derry systematically will wear them down, and Donegal's lack of experience will come just against them at the end. I think Derry will win that game. The Women's Premier Division, Bohemians 0, Shamrock Rovers 0, Galway United 0, Shelburne 1. We also have the Tailteann Cup round 3, Meath 1-9, Down 1-8, and Tipperary 16 points, Waterford 1-10. The Laurie Markup final, Monaghan 3-20, Lancashire 3-17. I think, Ger Brennan, the Tailteann Cup is really all about the appetite of the teams, isn't it, in terms of how far they're going to go. Like Meath would want to be winning this in a way, you know.
It's a super competition, John. I have to say, it helps those Division 3 and 4 teams actually get meaningful games. You know, when you're going training in preparation for championship, the Ulster or the provincial championship is a free shot. If you're a Division 3 or 4 team, there's not massive expectations on you, but then you know, then when you're placed in a group with other teams that you've either drawn or maybe won or lost by a point or two during the National League, that you have a chance. And I think it's been a revelation for the GAA. And again, the permutations, a bit like the Sam Maguire series, there's a lot of key games the weekend which will determine who's going to progress on. I think the boys probably touched on already, that's week off if you can finish first or second, if you can avoid the preliminary quarterfinals. I think given the strain that's been put on panels, and especially the lower division teams, they wouldn't have as much strength and depth as Division 1 or 2 teams, and the resources will be far less as well. So if you can finish first or second in your group, I think that gives you a good chance then to recover going into the quarterfinal series.
You enjoying, you were saying, touching on it there, Ger, going to the games, having a bit of banter. I'd say the Dublin fans are loving their trip to Kilkenny today.
I say they will. I just got a WhatsApp. My sister and her fella are in the car on the way down to Kilkenny. So the sun is shining, the sunglasses are on, and there'll be a huge atmosphere in Kilkenny. I'm involved at Moorfield in Kildare, and the kit man texted me there to say that 21 years ago, Kildare bet Offaly in Nolan Park in the Leinster semi-final, and it was a Moorfield man that got the winning points. So I haven't done my research on it, but Cully Hayden, he's the one who told me that. But so maybe Kildare will have better fortunes down there today, but it'll be difficult for them to go over the line, really. You know.
Are you enjoying going to the games, Finian?
Yeah, I suppose I am and I am. And there's some games, John, during the league that, you know, you might wait till half time to rock down because you kind of, it's a bit predictable at the minute. But look, I've 3 young girls, you know, I'm trying to getting going to games, and you know, the atmosphere is good. I really enjoyed last year. Obviously, we went on a journey last year all the way to the final, and the buzz was great. Apart from the semi-final, difficult watch, but great atmosphere. So look, when your county's in a good place, which we think we are at the minute, no, it's great. I'm not travelling today, but I'll be at the Armagh match and the games after. So look, it's great. You know, the buzz is back. Obviously, we're in post-COVID mode as well, and there's a carnival atmosphere. Sun is shining this weekend, so I'd say with all 16 games, there'll be crack everywhere. So I think the supporters will be really lapping it up. So hopefully there'll be a bit of quality quality on show.
You've seen a lot of flags, a lot of buzz in the local papers, local radio. Feeling like this could be what was the documentary again from 1998?
Here Till Sunday.
That's it. Another one of those.
Yeah. Look, that was a one-off. We weren't expected to do anything that year, and it was just by chance that Pat Comer had the cameras with him. So, look, it's when you predict these things, they don't happen. So, look, you don't know. The secret's out now with Galway. We were there. We competed last year. Possibly could have won the final. So, there's no huge surprises, but there's an air of confidence around here, John. Today in Salt Hill, the 99s are flying. We have the Salt Hill 5s back. The national Salt Hill 5-a-sides are in Salt Hill Park. Big crowd down for that. So look, it's like the 90s, so you never know.
Hopefully the flakes work over there in Galway, do they? They don't crumble.
No. We've decent flakes down here, John. As you know from the Galway races, we've got the best of flakes.
Yeah, and Conleith, will many travel now to over the border tomorrow for Derry?
Yeah. There's a serious appetite in Derry for county football again. Obviously the Miners won the Ulster Championship last week against Monaghan in a penalty shootout. You know, so that's Minor, and probably could have won the under-20s as well. So Derry football's in a really strong position, and I think the fact that the county senior team's doing well, there's a huge appetite. And I think if Derry could get this win, probably the one worry you would have from a Derry perspective is that their bench doesn't get sort of used much. Kieran McFall is now back and is starting, so if Derry could win this game, they could probably take their foot of the gas a wee bit because they're already qualified the next day out, you would think. So Derry's in a great place. Wrap Shane McGuigan in cotton wool, and if they can keep him fit and injury free, then they're in with a really good shot of taking out any of the big teams later in the year.
And maybe people haven't really made that connection with Shane McGuigan as a potential, I don't want to say Northern David Clifford, but like a game changer in the championship, like Shane Walsh was for Galway last year, Conleith.
Yeah, very much so. And again, the fact that Shane McGuigan's game has evolved, 2 or 3 years ago he was full forward, but somebody dropped in front of him and it snuffed him out in games, whereas now he goes out and he plays at 11. When you see in the Ulster final, when they're under serious pressure, he goes out into the midfield and he gets 2 primary possessions from kickouts. In the Ulster final the year before, he was the player that blocked Michael Murphy's free kick when they needed to win it. So he's evolved into so much more than just a scorer, even though I think he scored something like 660 between league and championship this year. So I think he does much more than other marquee forwards in his game, and I think that's what probably, and he's so selfless, so I think that's what sort of sets him apart at the minute for me.
Conleith, Gilligan, Ger Brennan and Finian Hanley, you're very good to take an hour out of your Saturday in this beautiful weather to speak to us on Off the Ball Saturday here on News Talk. Enjoy the matches and we'll chat soon.
Alright, thanks John. Thanks
John. See you lads.
And we'll also be with James Donoghue after this break to build up to Kerry and Cork in depth at Porky Queeve. Just what a day here it is, folks. August Rodan has won the Derby for Aidan O'Brien and Ryan Moore at Epsom. As to the best news we could have had from a racing perspective today, Man City versus United in the Wembley Cup final at 3 o'clock. No real big surprises in the teams. Rashford starting for United, Haaland for City. Bohemians nil, Shamrock Rovers nil in the Women's Premier Division. Galway United nil, Shelburne 1. The latest score that we have to hand in the Tailteann Cup, Meath 1-9, down 1-8, and Tipperary Tipperary 16, Waterford 110. The Lorry Markup final, Monaghan 320, Lancashire 317. That's what's going on in terms of around the houses. Just to bring you up to date on Tom McGuigan, still in a tie for second on day 3 of the European Open in Hamburg. Never won on the tour, only a young player from the same neck of the woods as Rory McIlroy. Tom McGuigan 5 under par through 12 holes, 1 shot behind the leader Gilligan, who is in the clubhouse on 6 under par. We're back after this.
Off the Ball on News Talk. The Hard Shoulder with Kieran Cuddihy.